Hello everyone, Gary Toohey here for Clubber TV. Ahead of the North finals this weekend, I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by Liam Hogan from the Nenagh Éire Óg, Tomas Matthews from Clubber TV and James Hayden from the Nenagh Éire Óg as well. Lads, how are you keeping today?
Very well,
Gary. Lads, we have an absolute action-packed weekend ahead of us. The big one obviously is the All-Ireland Hurling final, but in our eyes we have three bigger finals. Starting on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock in Dolla, the High Burning in North Senior Hurling final with Nenagh and Kiladangan. Sunday obviously was meant to be a double header inside Nenagh, but obviously the intermediate game is moved to Toomevara 1:15, and obviously 7 o'clock then Sunday evening in Nenagh we've got the Premier Intermediate final with Burgess and Lorrha. Lads, we're going to go straight into it. We're going to start with the intermediate final, and that's at 1:15 in Toomevara on Sunday. Obviously we have Moneygall going up against their rivals Borrisokane, which is a repeat of the 2021 final. Tomas, we'll start with you. Myself and yourself were covering the Moneygall Rovers game last Friday night with Liam and James as well. I was very impressed with the Rovers, considering they were missing 7 players from the North final 2 years ago. Moneygall were 8 points up at one stage. What will Moneygall have to do to overcome, I suppose, that 8-point deficit that they, or the 8-point lead that they had, and just about held on in extra time?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, we were talking off air and that now, one thing they're probably going to have to look at is trying to get the full hour out of a lot of the players. Like, a lot of these lads only hurled in spits and spats. Like, we've seen Paddy Fogarty in the first half, he had 3 points, he was on fire inside in the corner, and he never really saw any ball until extra time then as well. Now, that's not saying that he went out of the game. There was no ball going into him in the second half. Like, they had a very slow start. They had conceded a goal in the first minute, and Cathal Green nearly got caught for a second one. He done well to come back, and like we were kind of saying, Green is under pressure here, but he settled down, and himself and Phil Fanning were unbelievable in the full back line, and Brendan Toohey and Adam Hogan, of course, as well, and Andy Hoolan for his first championship start. Like we mentioned, why were the Rovers not trying to look at him and launch balls down on top of him? I think they launched one early and Hoolan went and he broke it, and they just went away from that. Most of the balls actually went the other side of the field, but the likes of Aidan Ryan and Bob Kenny stormed into the game in the second half. He scored 1-2, but like the ability that the two of them have, they need to get a full hour out of them at the weekend. And I was talking to Paul O'Brien there this morning, and we were saying, like, he was saying the same thing about lads stepping up. Like Joe Fogarty got a lot of punishment there the other day, and probably obviously earmarked Joe Fogarty and Seanie Keneally, but in fairness to other lads that did step up when it was asked of him, but it's a full hour's hurling is what you need out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Like Joe got 12 points last day, 11 dead balls, 1 from play. Jack O'Sullivan did a great job on Joel Fogarty, that has to be said, the last day. Obviously, as you touched on, Sean Keneally got 2 points to play. Again, a great job done by Oisin McMahon and Sean Keneally. James, look, I suppose the injury of Kieran Quinlan, I think Tomas got, I suppose, a small bit of an update from the Moneygall camp earlier on. We're neither here nor there whether we know if Danny's going to be fit or not, but a big mention has to be given to Kevin McCormack. For me, his puck-outs really changed the trajectory of Moneygall's play when he came on.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I think Gary looked was very noticeable. When young McCormack came on, his puck-outs were not only were they longer, but they were pinpoint accurate as well. Now, I don't want to take away from Kieran Quinlan and goal, he's a fine keeper as well, but Moneygall are blessed to have Kevin McCormack as well as backup. Whoever Paul O'Brien goes for on Sunday will be interesting, but they won't have any worries with who's going to be between the sticks on Sunday. Young Kevin McCormack is well able to deputise, and he could even start, we don't know.
100%. So James, yeah, with Kevin McCormack, a big plus for them to have 2 goalies. Hopefully Dan will be okay from his point of view. Liam, look, I know I suppose taking the Rovers cap off, you must have been very impressed with the Rovers performance considering there were 7 out, but from a Moneygall point of view, where will this game be lost and won for Moneygall now against Borrisokane this weekend?
Well, looking back at the Rovers game, obviously I felt 10 foot tall walking out of Borrisokane after watching that display by Shannon Rhodes, because they are really down in the doldrums at the moment with the number of players going out of the country, and to be missing 7 from the team that took the field against Lorrha in the North final last year, plus Alan Hogan, who came on as a sub, he was back all right. But there was a one period in the game just after half time when Moneygall could have sealed the victory. They 6 or 7 wides in the trot, but the Shannon Rovers decided to change their game plan. Instead of in the first half, they were trying to cut through the middle and going into contact, and there was no results coming off of it. In the second half, they just began to spread out up in the forward line, and they really played brilliant stuff, and they came back and nearly stole it at the end.
They did.
George Hannigan was within a whisper of scoring a winning goal, and he just couldn't get that power into the shot, like, you know. So and okay, in fairness, at the other end of the field, Paddy Heenan produced 2 outstanding saves, which was very important as well. But that's what goalkeepers are for. Goalkeepers make saves, forwards are to score. Looking forward, Borrisokane are a team. There's a lot of pace in that team.
Yeah.
And if I was a Moneygall supporter or a Moneygall manager, I'd be kind of worried that with what Borrisokane would bring to this final, you know. And they have Kieran Foley to call on the subs bench, and Gary Ryan, and have the experience of a lot of experience up front there. Oisin Larkin is having a great year, as he had last year, and you must remember as well, Lorrha's great run last year that probably whipped everyone aside with relative ease, you could say, except in the last quarter in the county final, when Moneygall threatened to come back to them, and those 2 great saves made by Kevin Hock and the goals. But the not semi-final against Borrisokane, that was edge of the seat for Lorrha.
Yeah.
And Borrisokane really put it up to them. And this is what team is going to turn up for Borrisokane? The team that wants to really has all guns blazing. They're a dangerous team.
Yeah.
So they are. And of course, taking on the close neighbours Lorrha was fantastic. It wasn't just all they needed. That's the only
bite they needed, exactly.
The bite they needed, and you know, so it's a hard one to call. Moneygall's experience would probably give them the edge, which is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, no, listen, lads, I suppose before we go into predictions and stuff, we'll touch on Borrisokane and the very impressive victory over Kiladangan to begin. I was very impressed with Borrisokane. I was very disappointed in Kiladangan now. Yeah. Very disappointed in Kiladangan, but Borrisokane had 22 points at half time. Yeah. They got 29 in total. I think 22 of those actually came from play. So a big score to put up. Oisin Larkin obviously 14 points, 7 from play, 7 frees. Jack Larkin and Liam Cleary for me were absolutely outstanding in the middle of the park. Pace and accuracy was unbelievable. Then you've Dylan Power, you big Mike Heenan there as well. Conor Ryan was very impressive for me, lads. 3 points in play. Peter Collins picked up 2 points in play for wing back. I suppose, look, with the matchups, I'll start with you, Tomas. Oisin Larkin, who in the Moneygall side will pick him up? He will have to be man marked. Oisin did a lot of deep line play as well. He dropped into midfield, he dropped into half forward line, was in full forward line once or twice as well. Who in the Moneygall side will be picking up Oisin Larkin?
Yeah, well, look, looking at the way they started last weekend, and Oisin Larkin left that forward, Andy Hoolan is his second championship game. It's hard to see him. Do you put Brendan Toohey there, or do you bring Adam Hogan across? Because I think myself, I wouldn't take Brendan Toohey on centre back now, and I'd leave him there, and possibly Adam Hogan could be the man, or who Moneygall have used even at underage down through the years, Cathal Green. Cathal Green could be, and look, I know from Clonakilty Moneygall involvement in that, and I know I've been involved in teams, and we would have had a lot of battles with Borrisokane, and it was Cathal Green that always went on Oisin Larkin, and I wouldn't be surprised now if Paul O'Brien and Willie Green and the lads put Cathal Green on Oisin Larkin, but it's either him or Adam Hogan. I personally would put Cathal Green there now on Oisin Larkin to try and nullify him and leave Brendan Toohey at centre back, like.
Just a point of that there, Tomas, actually, so we picked it up that Brendan was actually man marking George for a lot of that game in the first half, and some into the second half. When Brendan went back centre back, Moneygall kind of got a bit more stable, and obviously that big hit in an extra time, which we had the clip there up on our club or socials, the big hit by Brendan, that big shoulder that led to the goal from Mark Fannin to basically seal the deal for Moneygall. James, you were at the game, Borrisokane. Yep. How impressed were you with Borrisokane?
I was very impressed with Borrisokane, Gary. Look, at the midfield there, Liam Cleary and Jack Larkin just ran the midfield. I was disappointed with Kiladangan, because on paper going into the game, that Kiladangan team, and even the late changes to it, the Kiladangan team were a good team on paper, but they just didn't really show up on the day. But realistically, I don't think they were allowed to show up. Borrisokane were on point from the minute that ball was thrown in. I think the first point was whipped over after, I think it was 11 seconds. 11 seconds. It was just, if they were on, Shamey had them on point. Oisin Larkin has a fantastic ability to ghost into space. And while I would agree with Tomas, Carl Green could be the man to pick him up, but just watching him, he has this ability to ghost into space and to pick off long range points. And the one thing about Borrisokane that I thought very, very interesting, like they weren't going for goals, they were taking their long range points from way out the field. And when you see the likes of Brian Dooley cornerback surging up for a point, and Peter Collins, a brilliant point, and Peter Collins picking off 2 points in the wing back position. But like Liam Cleary and Jack Larkin in the middle of the field, they ran the show, there's no doubt in that. In attack, look, Philip Austin battled hard, he's a warhorse. He battled very hard. Mike Heaton didn't have the best of days, but he could have a fantastic day next Sunday. He can pick off a goal, he can pick off a point. Kevin Cleary done a lot of running, done a lot of handing off. To be honest, the half forward line there of Conor Ryan, Dylan Power and Oisin Larkin did an awful lot of damage. But Moneygall will have it will be put to the pin of their collar. Borrisokane will put it to the pin of their collar. And just as an aside to that, Borrisokane's last win against Ballinhinch was also in Toomevara. So it's a field that has been a lucky field for them.
Right, okay.
So there's very little to separate these two sides. And I forgot to mention as well, Colin Larkin in the goals pulled off a couple of fantastic late saves there. So they're very well balanced, they're very well tuned, and I've no doubt that Seamie Gleeson will get a good tune out of them again on Sunday.
Obviously Seamie has a fair track record himself. And obviously just to touch on the bench really quickly, so it's like Gary Ryan, obviously next to minor. Gary's been one of Borrisokane's main men for the last couple of years, and obviously last year's county minor, Kieran Foley. Kieran made a decent impact when he came off the bench as well. He'll bring a lot of pace, a lot of direct running as well for Borrisokane off the bench. Before we go to predictions, I suppose we touch on a matchup on the Borrisokane side. On the Moneygall side, who will Borrisokane have? I suppose, can they afford to have 2 men to take on Joe Fogarty and Sean Keneally, or will they target just one lane?
They'll have to target both, because they're Joe Fogarty and Sean Keneally are both match winners for Moneygall. So it's hard to know where that will pan out. But you also have to remember too that we were talking about the backs on the Moneygall side. Philip Fannin had an outstanding game with the
and not to mention Philip obviously our man the match, the evergreen Philip Fannin.
Absolutely, and his experience, the experience he brings to the team is invaluable. So
and just on that, sorry Liam, I was touching Conor Ryan as well. Conor is touching his 41 or 42, and he played like you mentioned Oisin Larkin ghosting. Conor Ryan ghosted all Friday evening, and he picked up the word of ball. I would love to see his stats on his possessions. He was very good for Moneygall as well. But continue, Liam.
Yeah, who will they get? Shane Nevin has been outstanding all through his career for Borrisokane, and again he's continuing despite the number of injuries he has picked up over the last while. Jimmy Hawk is another very good player, a very good servant for Borrisokane. Rowan Murphy has come back into his best again after having a disappointing year last year, and Stephen Gavin has always given everything to Borrisokane, and you have Peter Collins on the left wing there. So I didn't see the Borrisokane game the other night. I was away, but I expect that Shane Nevin and Jimmy Hawk will be given tasks to keep an eye on those. Daunting
tasks for the boys, but I'm sure the lads will be more than up for it.
Just as an aside there, Gary, and I forgot to mention, there's one thing Seamie Gleeson will be looking at in that game, against Kiladangan. There was 3 or 4 high dropping balls that weren't dealt with by the inside backline of Borrisokane, and with Stephen Gavin, Shane Nevin and James Hawk in that backline. And I'd say it's something they may look at tweaking it slightly, because if you Seanie Keneally, and if they decide to put Seanie Keneally in the edge of that square and they drop in high dropping balls, Keneally has without doubt the ability to win them and bang it in the back of the net. So it is a slight concern I have in that inside backline for Borrisokane, judging on what I saw against Kiladangan.
It could be something that they may drop a man back in front of the full back line, and like listen, Moneygall at some stage you could have Joe and Seanie Keneally inside as well. Obviously look, Seanie probably tip under 20s, one of our best player this year along with Eddie Ryan. Lads, listen, we'll jump on to predictions here. I want no one sitting on the fence. James, I'll start with you. Who do you think will win the Kelly's Fantan Intermediate North final this Sunday in Toomevara?
Look, going into this game, it's going to be a very tight encounter. I can't see either team running away with this. Going back to what Liam said there with regards to the Lorrha game last year, like Borrisokane were just within a whisker of going forward. Moneygall seemed to have that little bit of extra experience in their side, and Tomas touching it with Phil Fanning there. It's a very hard one. I won't sit in the fence. Specifically from a scoring point of view, I think Borrisokane might have the edge, but by very little.
Perfect. James Hayden going for Borrisokane. Tomas? Who will win for you on Sunday in Toomevara?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it there as well, and I'm looking at the stats from the Borrisokane game. Like, their midfield and their backline scored 12 points between them, and that means the Moneygall forwards, as good and all as they are, they're going to have to work and work and work. And their midfield, like, you can't afford passengers here. It's a final, but you can't afford lads to be drifting in and out. You're going to have to play for a full hour. And coming in, I would have said Moneygall, but looking back at the stats here now as well, and of course Moneygall are missing a good few lads from last year as well. Like Ger Corbin is away on his honeymoon, Cathal Kennedy is injured, Jack Corbin is out of the country, Roddy Tehan is out of the country. Like, they have 8 that were involved in last year's county final.
Yeah.
Out. James Carroll is only back from injury. I think he only done contact for the first time last night in training. I would have said Moneygall at the start, but looking at the stats there, and like, Moneygall are probably people's favourites for the county, but Borrisokane too. Like, I'm going to go with Borrisokane. I think Borrisokane might sneak this game.
That's James and Tomas going for Borrisokane. Liam, is it a clean sweep for you?
No, Gary. No, when the 4 teams, when you look at the 4 teams at the start of the year, there's one name that stands out that sort of brings fear to the other 3 teams. And maybe there are.
Yeah, they look for that team first.
Yeah, but Moneygall is the team to look at, and I'm going to. I've said at the start, Moneygall will win this North Championship. I still think they will.
Right, Liam, you're going for Moneygall. Right, to wrap up there, James Hayden is going for Borrisokane, Tomas Matthews is going for Borrisokane, and Liam Hogan is going for Moneygall. So folks, that is the Intermediate North final this Sunday in Toomevara at 1:15, which is live on Clubber TV. So pop over to clubber.ie to get your match pass if you can't make the game. Right lads, we'll move on to the Premier Intermediate final. The Savvy Kitchens Premier Intermediate final. Obviously this is going to be contested with Burgess and Lorrha. I personally have been very impressed with Burgess in their 2 games so far this year. Obviously they bet the Mines 2 weeks ago inside Nenagh 319 to 119, and Lorrha obviously had a very comprehensive win over Portro on Saturday, 119 to 10 points. Now it has been tainted a small bit with 2 red cards for Lorrha, and we'll touch on that in a second. Tomas, we'll start with the Lorrha Portro game. I know you were doing that there for Clubber TV. Was the scoreline as easy as it suggested?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, myself and John Sheedy spoke about it before the game, that there was a fierce, strong wind going down into the dressing room main goal, and the toss was going to be vital, and Lorrha won the toss, and they went 7 or 8 points up, and there was always that buffer there, and they were 7 points up, I think it was, at half time, and Port came back and got the first 3 points, and they had it back to 4, and it looked like they were going to make a run at him, but Lorrha just took complete control. Michael Dolan, the centre back, controlled the half back line, and Niall McIntyre was busy as always, scored 3 points in play. The Bonner was named at centre forward, ended up at full forward. He was coming out, breaking, making space, and it was fairly comfortable for him. They hit 119 and they only hit 6 wides. they kept Port to 2 points from play. One of them was a big high ball that came in, and Kevin O'Halloran doubled on it. They could have ended up anywhere, and they were completely dominant. Now Port will be very disappointed with them, but as you said there, the 2 red cards at the end tainted it, because talking to Ken Hogan after the game as well, and he wasn't happy. Like, obviously he hadn't seen what happened at that stage. We didn't pick it up, the cameras picked it up, we were following the play, but there were 2 needless red cards. I know that there was talks of appeals and that now, but Dennis O'Mara's one that, look, he swung back. Dara Guinan had his bit of handbags with Robert Byrne there, but it tainted him, and the 2 of them, it looks like the 2 of them at this stage are going to be missing.
Have we any word on Lorrha? Are they appealing either the red cards?
They're appealing.
They are appealing. And just for everyone listening at home or watching this, what is the appeals? So look, it's so close to the final now this weekend. What is the turnaround, James? Do you know the turnaround on appeals? They send the appeal in. When will that be heard? Or
well, I suppose that's down to the North Board.
Okay.
That's the decision for the North Board. I wouldn't be privy to that information now at the moment, but that would be a decision for the North Board.
Okay.
When they would hold a meeting for that. You know?
Okay, well obviously they have to decide before the weekend, obviously. So Tomas, listen, I suppose obviously Darragh and Dennis O'Mara, we'll just take it as a now they're out. Brian Hogan as well, after being relegated last year, they probably have after being relegated last year, after winning the meet last year, sorry about that, they have a real push on again this year. They're one of my favourites for the county again this year. Where do you see, I suppose, the star men for them this weekend, and what will Burgess have to do to content them?
Yeah, well, obviously, look, we spoke about Michael Dolan. Alan O'Mara, very impressive in the middle of the field, busy there the whole time. Like, Niall McIntyre seems to start wing forward, but within 2 minutes he's out midfield. Himself and Martin Gorman were changing the whole time. Gorman got a couple of points from play, and Niall McIntyre scored 3. Chris Fogarty was quiet, considering what we usually expect of him. He scored a point from play. Colin Fogarty unearned from the frees all day long. But it's whoever can come in. Assuming the 2 lads are out now, Kieran Hock did come in late in the game the other day, former county under-21 All-Ireland medal winner. Like, so, assuming he's going to start, like, he'll obviously be a huge addition, but it does put him under pressure from the start now at the weekend, and. Like, Owen McIntyre didn't score the other day either, but he was involved with a lot of good play for them. But it depends on who's going to come in and cover them positions. Like Michael Dolan, you could probably put him back into the full back line, but he's so dominant at half back. He's shown a real captain player, and he was the same last year. Like, Lorrha just seemed to mean business from the start the other day, and they look like a team that. Obviously, they were relegated 2 years ago, and they had so many injuries 2 years ago and players missing and that, and they completely dominated the intermediate last year. And I suppose up until 64 minutes last Saturday, they would have been my favourites, not only for the North but for the county. Like.
Yeah. Obviously, look, Lorrha obviously managed by Ken Hogan, Conor Sullivan, Shane Brophy, and obviously Brian Carroll there as well. So they haven't got a bad backroom team there. Liam, we'll jump on to Burgess Newport. We were covering that for Clubber at the weekend. We had an unbelievable last 5-10 minutes. It looked like Burgess, I suppose, were cruising through and up until 45 minutes. 40 minutes really. I suppose Newport made a bit of a comeback. That man, Sean O'Brien, came off the bench and made an awful difference to Newport and scored an unbelievable goal as well. Burgess, will they be concerned? Because obviously against the Mines, they were 9 points up at one stage. The Mines got 5 in a row to bring it back to 4. Only for Bill Flagg got a goal and to kill off the Mines. Same story at the weekend. They were 7 or 8 points up. Newport got back to a point, and they pushed out in the end. Will that be something Burgess will be concerned about?
You would have to be, as a Burgess fan, you would have to be very concerned about. There's 2 games which had the game knocked up and still let the opposition back into the game, and they were, I would say, nearly caught against the Mines, but they were almost caught against Newport. I mean, Ronan Tucker made an outstanding save from that line ball that came across to the crowded goal mouth from Conor Fly. That was an outstanding save.
That was literally last puck of the game.
Puck of the game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
2 points down.
Now, Lorrha, if we look at the Lorrha side, they're going to could miss the 2 boys, Donegal and Toomevara, depending on the appeals if it comes in their favour. But Burgess certainly look to be in trouble if Donagh Maher doesn't play. Now, he went off with his shoulder, a sling on his shoulder and arm after 20 minutes against Newport, and he was a major loss against Newport. And like, he was excellent against the Mines. But so this is a game that, it's ironically, it's the first meeting for the two teams since Burgess overturned the form books and defeated Lorrha, an injury hit Lorrha in the relegation final back in the end of 2021. And that was a Lorrha team who 12 months earlier were in a whisper of getting into the Dunbreen when they lost the Seamus Arene final. The Seamus Arene now is the Premier Intermediate. I have seen both of Burgess's games. They have impressed me somewhat, their fitness levels, but they're when they seem to have the game wrapped up, the concentration levels or whatever begin to slip. That is a worry. I haven't seen Lorrha this year, but looking at the Lorrha forward line, like, they have 6 players to die for. And that, I think, is going to be the difference at the end of the day. To keep those 6 forwards at bay will be a major task for the Burgess team, who, let's face it, Jack O'Flaherty is playing very well, Johnny McQueen is playing very well, Kieran Howard is playing well, Willie Ryan cornerback had a great day last game, as Kieran Ryan, and Pat Woods went off replaced during the game. It seemed to me that he was carrying a slight knock. Will he be back? That's another one. Darragh Hogan is having an impressive year at the middle of the field. Lorrha, I'm going to go for Lorrha this, irrespective of the fact that I didn't see him in the last 2 games. But looking at their team that they have a team of talent there, and if Bonner is on his game, what backman in North Tipperary is going to hold it, and that's, I think, is going to make a main difference.
I suppose on Bonner, we'll touch on touch-ups there shortly. So Johnny McQueen probably would more likely pick up Bonner. He did a great job on Jason Ford for the Mines, obviously, in the quarter final. James, look, obviously with Dolla possibly being out, massive loss. He was the man of the match against the Mines.
He was, yeah.
I have to touch on the Burgess bench. I said the average age probably 18 or 19 of the 3 lads that came on: Sean Dunn, Conor Cooney, and Kieran Grace. Kieran Grace came on and got a point and was awfully busy. He was very busy. Conor Cooney got an absolute worldie of a goal. He's only 17 years of age. And Sean Dunn came on, and Sean Dunn got on plenty of ball as well. It's something I haven't seen at Burgess down for the last couple of years, where they've had options really on the bench to go to, and the conditioning and fitness of the Burgess team really stands out to me in the last 2 games. What is your view on Burgess going into Lorrha game?
Well, I think, look, you made a point there, Gary. I think it's a very good point. Burgess, the conditioning and the fitness of Burgess has been better that I have seen, the best I've seen in the last number of years. They're hopping out of their skins. The bench in particular, there, like I know Conor O'Brien said at half time, the junior manager, he wasn't happy with them coming in. But look, the bench it's a young bench, but they're an impactful bench. Burgess going into this, look, Burgess get written off an awful lot of times in finals, and an awful lot of times they have overturned the odds and won. When Burgess get to a final, they're capable of doing anything. They have in Bill Flack inside the full forward. He's capable of turning a game with just one catch of a ball from one puck out, catch the ball, and it's in the back of the net. Johnny McQueen in defence has been outstanding this year, as we said. Like Jack Fladder, Pat Woods, Kieran Ryan, Willie Ryan, their defence have hurled very well. Without a shadow of a doubt, the loss of Donagh Maher, if he's going to be out, look, Donagh Maher could line out one-handed and he'd still have an impact on the game. He's just a fine hurler. He's a huge loss to Burgess. Whether they can go out and do it for him on the day, time will only tell. Burgess, in my opinion, will give Lorrha lots of it, and lots of it Lorrha will get for it. Lorrha, now I'm going in blind with Lorrha. I haven't seen Lorrha in action this year, but I do know that like the loss of Dennis Amara and Darragh Guyan will be huge. Darragh Guyan adds a lot to that team coming out of defence. What I've seen of him in the past, and like, he will be a massive loss for Lorrha if the red cards stand. But as Liam pointed out, Lorrha's forwards, they have the forwards. Burgess will have to hold those forwards. If they can hold those forwards, Burgess is in with a great chance. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. And I suppose it's interesting as well. Keith Nealon's wearing 11, but Keith's obviously been plying his trade kind of at the half-back, centre-back role for the last
year or two. He's got on the world of ball in the last couple of games. Michael Ryan and Stephen Kerman are the two main men for me for Burgess.
Yeah.
They're running up and down the sideline. They're doing is incredible. The two of them got 1-3 between them from play the last day, and both of them got on the scoreboard against the Mines as well. Owen Hogan had a quiet day from his standards compared to the Mines game. And Stephen Murray, Stephen's got 116 in 2 games.
Yeah.
And he's having a quiet year.
He's having
by his own standards.
Yeah.
He's got 1-2 from play in 2 games, and he's having a very quiet year by his own standards. So, which is a fair testament to the Burgess forwards. Down through the years, when Stephen Murray was off, Burgess were off.
Correct.
So, yeah, listen, for me, this is actually, I know we were touching on the senior game. For me, this is the game of the weekend because it's one game I cannot call myself. Look, we'll go to predictions, lads. James, I'll start with you at the end of the table. Who is going to win between Burgess and Lorrha in the Savvy Kitchens and North final on Sunday?
Again, I think it's going to be a tight encounter. Look, they're waiting around all weekend for this game as well. It's late. It's on Sunday evening. That does have an impact, regardless of what anyone says. Some lads might like that. Some other hurlers might just want to have an earlier game. I just feel going into this game, I just have a sneaky feeling for Burgess.
Okay.
I just have a sneaky feeling for Burgess, and I know people might say, oh, Jesus, you don't know what you're talking about. I just do. I have a sneaky feeling for Burgess. I think Burgess can pull this off.
Right, James Hayden, you're going for the 2 Bs, Borrisokane and Burgess. Tomas, who is going to win for you on Sunday?
Well, like, Dunamaher's obviously a huge loss. The likes of Stephen Kerman that's stepping up, but he been a loss for Burgess, and I don't know, it could depend on the appeal of the 2 lads, but like as I said, up until 64 minutes last Saturday evening, I had Lorrha as favourites for the county title. Are we allowed to sit in the fence? No,
there's no sitting in the fence here today. Not on Clubber TV anyway.
I don't know. Look, I saw Burgess the first day. I didn't see all the match back the last day, as Liam already said about letting big leads slip and managing to get away with it. But they're probably not going to be in that situation at the weekend because it's going to be nip and tuck the whole way. But I think, depending on the ball going into the likes of Bonner and that breaking it, and Keane Hogan and like Niall McIntyre and them can shoot from long range, I'll hesitantly go for Lorrha.
Tomas, you're going for a final guy out of you anyway. Liam.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Thomas this time. I said in my preview in the Guardian that Lorrha by a whisper. And I'm sticking to that. We mentioned Keane Hogan there. Keane Hogan is one of these players who can pick up 3 or 4 points from any distance.
Keane would be very similar, I suppose. He'd be very similar to Bill Flatt for Burgess. Yeah. Big target man inside, and obviously Bill has done serious damage the last 2 games. Got around the match the last day. But yeah, Keane and Bill could have a big impact in this game on Sunday.
He tends to drift out towards the left wing there a lot of the time, and he likes off his favourite left side to clip the ball over the bar, and he has done it time and time again. And Colin Fordy, Patrick Maher, Niall McIntyre, they're all good score getters at this level now, and I'm going for Lorrha.
Perfect. So James Hayden, you're going for Burgess, Tomas Matthews going for Lorrha, and Liam Hogan going for Lorrha as well. Lads, we'll move on, I suppose, today. I suppose we call it the main one to weekend, the flagship for the North Board, the North Senior Final, the Hibernian Inn North Senior Final. Obviously, I'm thank the Hibernian Inn, we're actually here today as well recording this, so thanks very much to Kieran and the lads for us here today. Lads, this is an absolute mouth-watering affair. Alan Tierney is our ref at 7 o'clock on Saturday inside Dolla. I have no idea where to start with this. We'll start with Nenagh, right? We'll go to that man straight away, Jake Morris. He's got 117 in 2 games, 116 from play, got 1-9 from play the last day. If you stop Jake Morris, do you stop Nenagh? James?
In a word, yeah, you do. Look, Nenagh are down a number of players from last year, number 1 going into this game, or going into this season. But taking that into account, like I was at the Temple game, and I'd have to say, do you know what I mean? Tommy Heffernan can pick off his scores. Sean Phelan has really come on this year. Really it was very impactful in that game against Temple. Josh Kelleher Josh Kelleher, in my opinion, hurled extremely well in the game. Now Philip Hickey is a loss, but he's 50-50. Seamus Cleary said to me after the game, he's 50-50 with a thumb injury. So we'll wait and see will he line out. He would be in addition to that forward line. Michael Heffernan can pick off some lovely scores, long range scores. Ben West was taken off at half time there. He was after catching a lovely ball, but I think he was taken off more of a precaution than anything else. He got a bit of a knock. But to answer the question, like Jake Morris just absolutely went to town the second half on Templederry, and I think inside, like it was pointed out, scoring into the scoreboard end in Clough-Jordan was a little bit kind of, do you know what I mean? Nenagh kind of felt that it was the second half they really went to town with regards to what they were doing when they went to the far end.
Yeah.
Brought Jake out a bit. Jake went out, roved around, picked up a few balls, but he did. He caused huge damage, and yeah, he is. If Kiladangan can hold him, they're in with a serious chance, and Kiladangan will be in with a serious chance regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we'll touch on Kiladangan shortly. Nenagh got 223 against Templederry. 220 came from play. Now Templederry has to give him awful credit. Up until I suppose maybe 45-50 minutes, they were in and out of the game. They brought it back to 3 or 4 points there. One side, Sean Ryan gave Jake a run for his money. He was incredible at the weekend. He got 2-3 from play. A couple of his goals are up in Clubber if you want to watch those back, but he was very good for Templederry. Obviously Brian Sableton was a massive loss. 220 from play. Mikey Heffron from his own standards probably had a very quiet day. He got 2 frees and 1 from play. But I've been very impressed with both Josh Keller and Conor Hennessy. Again, similar enough to I suppose Mikey Ryan and Stephen Curran for Burgess. 2 young lads on the wing, up and down all day long. Conor kind of plays a deeper role, whereas Josh kind of plays a more attacking role. And Philip Hickey, by all accounts, should be back. Philip was very good for Nenagh in the semi-final. Liam, what is your thoughts on this Nenagh team? Like, where do you think, apart from Jake obviously, where do you think it'll be won or lost for Nenagh?
I've been closely involved. I have a lot of thoughts on this game. So first of all, before we go into deciding where the winner and loser in this game, the weather is going to be a factor, and by all accounts the weather isn't going to be great from what we hear on the radio this morning and last night. Number 2, I find if it's a windy evening, a windy day, I find Dolla is incredibly hard on forwards. I said that to you.
Yeah, you said it in commentary, especially down to the old scoreboard end.
Yeah, the old scoreboard end. The players, the wide tally seems to be much higher in Dolla pitch than it does in any other pitch in North Tipperary. And that, look, at Dolla is a brilliant pitch, it's a brilliant venue and all that. The question is, will Jake Morris be held? If he's held, yes, I think Kiladangan have a great chance. And looking at the back line that Kiladangan have, you have James Quigley, David Sweeney, Darren Moran, Alan Flynn, Johnny Horde and Joe Gallagher. Now the question is, where is Joe Gallagher going to? He started. Where is he going to finish? He went up on the forward line in the second half when Kiladangan seemed to be in trouble getting scores. And I have to say about Kiladangan, the last 10-15 minutes of the game against Borrisokane, this is the Kiladangan we all know. We want to see really play with great spirit and determination. And remember, they were a man down going into the last quarter, and to pull out that game was a great fillip for them. Paul Flynn coming back to his best. Billy Seymour has definitely come back to his best, and the injury worry, of course, will be with Willie Connors going to be able to last the full 60 minutes. Sean Hayes is coming back to his best as well. The Nenagh team has changed a lot from last year's preliminary quarter-final defeat to JK Brackens. Again, they were winning well, and just for some reason or other, they just stepped off the radar. And you have to think of whatever influence. You'd like to think he has a tremendous influence on this team, and that's Michael Cleary. He's on the sideline with Nenagh this year, and he has changed the team. Or maybe they have changed the team around. They have young Sam Farrell now in cornerback, newcomer Mark Carey fullback, and Mark Carey is a fine hurler. And you have Conor Ryan gone from wing back to cornerback. Conor Hennessy was fullback last year. He's gone up in the forwards. Paddy Murphy was in the forwards, he's gone back in the back, he's playing centre back and wing back, and playing with great confidence.
Really good game, really good game against Templederry.
Barry Heffernan, it's great to see him back after that injury in that not final last year against Kiladangan. He's back as well, and he's hurled well. And Michael Heffernan owes nothing to Nenagh. No. The service he has given to Nenagh over the last number of years has absolutely been incredible, so it has. So look at Josh Keller is a great addition to that team. He was there around on the bench last year, coming in at times, and and Sean Phelan now has much more experience in his second season with the team. I'm going to put I'm not going to sit in the fence of this. I'm going to go for Kiladangan, but not by much. Now the two boys are missing.
We'll touch on that now. Actually, what we'll do is we'll go straight to the Kiladangan Borrisokane game, because what it lacked in for me, we built it up to probably the game of the weekend. It probably was the worst quality hurling-wise game of the weekend, but it did not lack in drama. That's one thing for sure. Obviously, for anyone who didn't see it, Kiladangan were down to 13 men. Tadhg Gallagher and Declan McGrath both got 2 straight red cards. Conor Kenny got sent off for Borrisokane. We are hearing that obviously they're appealing the red cards as well, but we'll take for granted that they're out, right? Who will come in place of Decky and Tadhg at the weekend?
Well, they have the good. The satisfaction of having a good bench. You could see Fergal Hayes coming in, you could see cornerback, you could see Donald Mark starting, Shane Deason, Brian Monaghan is
just on Brian was over in America, was he?
And he's back this week.
Okay.
Back this week. And,
will he be fit enough to even come on and do a job?
I don't really know.
You're not privy to inside information, no? No insider trading.
No, nobody tells me anything. I'm the last man to know. No, but if he'd be a very valuable sub to bring in a player capable of scoring the goal, capable of scoring that winner, that vital points.
It wasn't until I arrived here today, I had a chat with Kieran Morris, I completely forgot about Brian was away for the summer. And like on a Nenagh point of view, like Dara Quinn, Donagh Quinn, Adam Grattan, Conor McCarthy, I'm probably missing 1 or 2 as well. Like Nenagh are down massive numbers, but something I noticed as well, Brendan Cummins was at the game for Nenagh Templari, so obviously he's keeping an eye out obviously on Samuel Farrell and maybe 1 or 2 others. James, I go to you now, your thoughts on the game, I suppose from both sides of you, Kiladangan and Nenagh.
Well look, you know, 2 fine teams going up against each other, 2 teams that have impressed throughout the last number of years. 2 teams with, I suppose, with different outlooks going into it. Nenagh Éire Óg with some young lads going in there, as you mentioned there, Samuel Farrell, positional changes from last year, kind of a rejig team going into it. Kiladangan, again, as I said, as would have said to you beforehand, the 2 lads that are going to be missing, they are we're taking that they're going to be missing at this stage. If they win the repeal, it's a different scenario. But without those 2 guys, you know what I mean, Kiladangan are a little bit up against it. They have a strong bench, but it's a very hard one to call, Gary. You know, it's a very hard one to call. Like weather conditions will be impactful as well. You know, the Dolla pitch, as we said, if it's a very breezy game or very breezy weather, and they're shooting into that top end above, it is difficult. The point scoring the points can come down, the tally can come down. It's one now I've thought about, and I've thought long and hard about before when you asked me, Gary, to do this. But I'm going to go with Éire Óg.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Éire Óg based on one thing, the Jake Morris factor.
Yeah.
I think just watching the points that he scored from all angles, and some of them were outrageous. They were outrageous points. If he's in that same form, now he mightn't be afforded the same space, but if he can generate that same space, I'd have a sneaky feeling for Éire Óg.
Is it a given, Tomas, I'll go to you, is it a given that David Sweeney, because that's the only one I can think from a Kiladangan point of view that will have the ability, if he has enough ability, to stick with James or Jake Morris? Will David Sweeney be picking up Jake Morris, Tomas?
Yeah, well, looking at the last couple of years, however Kiladangan have come up against, David Sweeney always goes on the most dangerous forward, and it's but he probably will pick him up all right. But one thing that has been very impressive in the 2 games, and like we're roaring the whole time, Jake Morris needs the proper supply of ball, and the supply of ball that he's been given the last 2 days is absolutely unbelievable. Like, it's not going left or right, it's not going over his head. Every forward hates the ball going over his head. It's coming right out in front of him where he can move onto that ball, and he's such a turn of pace. Once he's away from you, it's very hard to catch him. And as the lads said, like Conor Hennessy and Josh Keller are playing super stuff. Mikey Heffernan is doing a lot of work without probably unnoticed work. Like I said it to you after the first game above in Dolla in the quarter-final against Toom. I know Jake Morris got man of the match that day, but Mikey Heffernan's work rate was unbelievable. Like, but on the Kiladangan side, Billy Seymour he probably didn't have his best year last year, but he seems to be back to his best. Like, he's after having 2 unbelievable games. Like Paul Flynn as well. That pass that he gave into Willie Connors the first time against Ross Gray. Like, I spoke to some amount of people after, and all they wanted to do was Where can I see it? And I'd say Clubber TV got plenty of subscribers just to see that ball.
My Instagram blew up when I threw that up.
Like, Kiladangan are back to their best too, like, and they're probably one of the favourites for the county. And like, it's hard to know. Like, it depends on the two appeals as well. Like, but if Kiladangan can get the grips on Jake Morris, they probably have a chance, and they'll probably be favourites. But the same as James there now, the Jake Morris factor is going to be huge. Like, so we seen it. If you go back to Galway, we were roaring the balls that were going to Jake that just weren't suiting him. The last 20 minutes he came out and he went fighting for the balls, which we probably wouldn't have seen him do before, because he knew that they weren't coming for him, and he's done it the last couple of days. Like, when you mentioned, or when you were talking to him after the game, he probably didn't touch the ball for 20 or 25 minutes.
That's actually, I'm just going to touch on that. He didn't touch the ball for the first 16 and a half minutes against St. Larry. Not one ball, not even a hook or a block, nothing. So to stay in that frame of mind, but obviously the elite athletes do. But like, again, I suppose that's something to come back to the county. When corner forwards or full forwards don't get on the ball, it's like, just take them off, or they're having a bad day. It's the usual thing. Jake probably got a bit of flack as well. But the service, as you said, the service of ball going in. I touch on James Matthews as well. He started for Nenagh last weekend instead of Philip Hickey, but kind of played wing back. Adam Healy and James Matthews for wing back. The supply of ball going aside. 2:15 came from play from the Nenagh forward line against St. Larry. Now, you can say that was St. Larry, you can say that was Accrington Stanley. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. 2:15 from play. I think Nenagh probably just have the edge.
There's the factor also, Gary, that like Paddy Murphy back in the half back line is a revelation.
He knows what balls to give in. He knows the balls he likes to.
He's hitting balls that he wants to get.
And he's kind of playing, I suppose, I would call it a sweeper role, but kind of a spearman role as well. But like, when you have Barry Heffron and Paddy Murphy dead in your centre, two big colossus men, then you've Adam Healy and James Mackey outside to feeding ball, and then you've Conor Hennessy coming deep, you have Josh Keller coming deep. Look, I'm not giving a prediction here because I'm not allowed to, but I think if I had to, I'd be siding with Nenagh as well if the 2 red cards aren't overturned.
There's one other small factor as well, Gary. It's just Willie Connors limped off in that game against Borrisokane, and like, depending on how Willie's ankle is after that, do you know, like, does he go to the middle of the field? Does he stay inside the inside forward line? It's going to be a little bit of a factor if he's carrying a knock. To the extent, like, you don't know if you get an ankle injury, it can blow up. Was it iced quick enough? Was it not? It all depends. We'll know when he runs onto the field. And you'll know fairly quick.
I imagine, from my point of view, if Tadhg is missing, obviously Tadhg does a world of work out in the midfield and half forward line. Willie will probably start out deeper. Now look, who are we to question Sean O'Mara, George Hannigan, Sean O'Mara and Darragh Egan? But Willie, for me personally, does his best hurling out in the middle of the field. I don't think there's anyone better in club hurling that has an eye better than Willie Connors, and obviously the skill set he has as well. So look, that'd be interesting to keep an eye on Willie as well, obviously with that injury. By all accounts, he should be fine, and Owen Willie, he'll be fine himself. But it'll be very interesting. Owen Sharkey's done fierce impactful hurling as well this year. Big target man inside, something I suppose Dangan haven't had really the last couple of years, but I suppose Billy Seymour and Sean Hayes. Just talking with Liam after the game, Sean Hayes probably was a run for the money for man of the match as well. He won 4 or 5 frees in the second half for Dangan against Borrisokane, which again will go down the ages for the lack of quality, but for the drama, it was one of the games of the year. So lads, just to clarify, I suppose what we're doing is, James, you are going with Nenagh.
I am, yeah.
Thankfully you're going with Nenagh.
Yeah, I just feel the Jake Morris factor is, if he's on fire, like David Sweeney or whoever goes on, he will have it all to do.
Perfect. And before we actually move on to Tomas, Alan Flynn did drop back into centre back for the last 15-20 minutes, and he did a world of hurling as well. You mentioned there, Liam, at the start of talking about the game. Do you think Joe will start at 6, or will Joe start the forwards where he finished the last day? For me, the Kiladangan team that finished the last day was their strongest team.
I think they'll be tempted to start Joe in the forward line. This is a North final that has to be won. Because of all North finals going, already in Kiladangan's group in the county championship, there's 2 divisional champions. Now will Kiladangan make it the 3rd? And there's not much room for error in that group stage in the county championship. To go through this, Kiladangan or Nenagh winning this divisional final, will be a blessing in disguise for them, because it will give them the back door into the preliminary round if they need it going forward.
That's it. That's another factor, I suppose. Down through the years, last couple of years, maybe the divisions probably haven't been taken as serious, but now with the, I suppose, the factor, that's it. That's your trump card. You're into the county championship. Tomas, you are going for big side. Big side. Take your time. Take your time. We've nowhere to be. Take your time.
Look, it could be a shootout between Billy Seymour and Jake Morris. Like as I said there earlier, Billy Seymour is back to his best now at the minute, which is great to see, and probably he's coming back into Liam Cahan's plans as well. And like the Jake Morris factor, look, if the supply that has got into Jake the last 2 days, if he gets half that supply, it's going to be very hard to look past Nenagh. So, but then the way Billy Seymour and Paul Flynn are hurling, it's going to be a shootout. But I just feel that if we can get more out of Tommy Heffernan, Tommy tends to drift in and out of games, and I know he stood up the last day and that now, but look, the Jake Morris factor does it for me. I'm going to go with Nenagh.
Right, Tomas, you're going Nenagh, and Liam, probably no point asking, you're going to go to Dangan area.
I've set out from the very start. I said I'm going to opt for Kiladangan. This is going to be a hard fought game. It could be a very low scoring game where both backlines could dominate. But I'm going to give Kiladangan the nod. When
you look back at last year in Clough-Jordan, Nenagh 220, Kiladangan 218. I don't think we'll have that scoreline again.
Fantastic North final last year, and that was Nenah's crutch going into the preliminary quarter final. If you remember, because they were in a very tough group with Mike Carkey and Kilrowan in last year's and Clonouty in last year's group stage of the county championship, and Nenagh were thereabouts all the time, but they just weren't there to make the top two. So this is going to be a tense North final as well as everything else. It might be a place for real fancy hurling either.
Just something, I suppose, kind of a pointless fact really. There's been 3 senior games in Dolla so far this year. There's been no goals. So maybe it's a Dolla effect, I don't know. We were talking about there was 90 something points.
95 points scored on the double bill, Toomevara and Nenagh and Borrisokane Kilrowan.
And no goals.
But having said that, in fairness to the goalkeepers, Conor Doherty made 2 fantastic saves, and Nenagh's new goalkeeper, Dermot McTiernan, made probably the game saver from
another young fella into the Nenagh team as well. So it's probably the youngest Nenagh team I've ever seen in my time anyway. And then you've the experience of Kiladangan, obviously hoping to get a bit of revenge for last year's North final. Lads, listen, thanks very much. I'll go through the final selections again just to confirm with everyone at home. For the intermediate North final, James Hayden of the Garrison is going for Borrisokane, Tomas Matthews of Clubber TV is going for Borrisokane, and Liam Hogan is going for Moneygall. In the Premier Intermediate final, James Hayden is going for Burgess, Tomas is going for Lorrha, and Liam Hogan is going for Lorrha. And in the senior final, James is going for Nenagh, Tomas is going for Nenagh, and Liam is going for Kiladangan. Lads, listen, thanks very much for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. All 3 games are live on Clubber TV this weekend. If you go over to clubber.ie and get your match pass for all the games this weekend, we'd be delighted to have you on. We've been delighted with the feedback and the coverage so far. We've covered a lot of games across all divisions in Tip. We have actually 6 games on Clubber TV this weekend. We're going out to Kerry as well, and don't forget the South Tipperary final. I've been Gary Toohey for Clubber TV, Liam Hogan, Nenagh Éire, Tomas Matthews, Clubber TV, James Hayden, Nenagh Éire. Thanks very much for your time, guys. Enjoy the weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you again soon.